Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in our previous videos we were discussing about the content workspace object structure, right? So in today's video we would be moving further in that, and we would be using this content workspace object in our communities. So as you could see here is we are having this list of libraries in here, and we are having associated folders and files in here. Okay, so our requirement here is to display all these content libraries and these content documents associated to that library in our Salesforce communities. So how to do that? So I have just prepared a demo for this. So let's suppose you are having this is your content workspace library. Okay, so this is your content workspace, and if I click on this, so based upon the data it would be fetching up the things like I have just one birds folder in this. So currently what we are displaying is we are displaying all the associated content documents for that particular library. So how we are going to do this, I would be explaining you bit by bit, and this would be the highlights of this entire video, like how we would implement the object structure and the associated things. So guys, in order to implement this entire object structure, how we would be laying out things, we would be understanding in this video. So first of all, what we want is, our first step would be is to query the list of libraries, and libraries we call in Salesforce as content workspace object. Okay, so our first step would be to query the data. The second step is to pass the data from Apex to LWC, right, and display the data, right? Okay, and the third step would be to, like, if we click on a library, then its associated documents should be visible, right? This is our entire criteria that we want to implement, and that is already been implemented in here. So if I click on birds, I'm not seeing any details. If I click on asset library, I could see the details. Why? Because in asset library I have uploaded 3 documents: document 1, document 2, and document 3. So similar way we could implement the other things in here also. So now let's move over to our code, but before understanding, first create a method to query the libraries. I think that is gonna be easy. Then pass the data to LWC. So let's suppose we are having this method as I have created the class called libraries, and I have created a cacheable method that displays a list of libraries. So our first step is to query on the content workspace object. If I query my content workspace object, all this data comes up. Let me show you. So if I go over to my inspector and I write in as this, so see, this is coming up in here, right? Books, birds, and asset library. So our 3 data, that is, this list is coming. Now I could have written, just forget everything currently, just focus on this query. Now what I could have done is I could have returned this list only, right? But why I did all these things and made this method lengthy? So guys, what is the best practice that you should practice in your code journey is, like, you just need to create nested inner classes. So I just created a nested class called library. Okay, and in this I have passed 2 parameters, ID and name. So in this ID and name I'm just adding the data. So I had created a list of library, and in my list of library, first I am iterating and checking whether this content workspace object is empty or not. Okay, first check for is empty, then I am querying on this library object, and he is using a for loop what I am doing is I am just putting up the data in my wrapper class. So this is the simple and easy thing. What I did is queried and created an instance of our library in here, and in this added the ID and name and added it to the wrapper list. So this wrapper list is the list of library. Understood? And I'm just returning this. Why? Because let's suppose tomorrow I have to add one more parameter in here, or there might be created date, created by, anything of that sort that I have to add. Then instead of I will change in here, I'll add a parameter in here. What is the usability or accessibility of that is because that makes your LWC code readable and more easy. Why I am saying that is, okay, now our first part, that is query the list of libraries, pass the data to LWC, right? So now going over to my LWC, this is my library list HTML and this is the JS. For now, first important thing, we'll stick to our JS class. So I'll get the list of libraries. So this is our get list of libraries. I'm calling this method, and in my connected callback I'm just calling the data. So I am storing this data in a variable called libraries. Okay, this I have created in here, and what I am doing in here is I am iterating over this libraries. Because why now am I iterating? Because there are more than one record in here, and I am passing as a list from Apex. So this library would be an array, right? Now I am iterating like over the library.id, right? And if we click on the let it be to the other, I'll explain it in a few moments. And if I see there is the library.name and library.id, from where it is coming, this library object, what it is, this is containing what? ID and name. For tomorrow, if I have one more parameter, there would be, let's suppose, created date, right? So created date, and let's suppose it would be a string parameter only. For now we are just assuming that, or created by .name, anything, right? Now in order to get in here, I don't have to change any of these things because everything is coming fine. I just have to add one thing in here, like it might be in here like library dot created date, that I would have been passed from my Apex. So that is the advantage in there that I got it, right? And now what I did is, our first step is completed to display the list of these libraries, right? So now our second step is also done. Now our third step is, if we click on a library, the associated document should be visible, correct? Now how to achieve this? There are two ways to think in this. Either we could implement this in the same component, right? Or we could use the other component, and that is the child component. And why only child, guys? Why it is not like I am doing PubSub, so, or PubSub or LMS? So our major important thing is, I don't want these to be independent components, because my data would be loading when I am clicking on the particular library, right? So this component, the down one, is dependent upon the parent one. So that's why parent-child relationship. Why not PubSub? Why not LMS? Because I don't want this to be of any other page or other things, right? So that's why I'm not using LMS for that purpose. I could have surely gone with the same component also, like only one component. But why? Because we can make this component as a reusable component for all these three, right? So that's why it was easier to maintain the code in two different parts, because the down one has no relation directly with the upper one. Let's suppose I want to change the CSS, so I would go in the child file and change the CSS. Same goes for my parent, or anything that I want to add in here. This would be a separate file. there are two advantages for this. Deployment times would be reduced, and the deployment complexity would also be reduced, because you would be working on your sandbox orgs and you have to when deploy this to production. So if any change comes in any of the document in any of the requirements, let's suppose for the image, title or anything, so then we can separately tackle those things, and that also makes your code debugging easy. So in here we created this. So when I'm clicking on this, I'm calling a method called handle library click, and what it is doing is it's consoling the event dot target dot dataset dot id. And what is this? I have created a data id variable where I am passing the library id. So what it is showing is it's showing the associated library id, and I am storing this library id in my content workspace id, right? So this is the small method that I created. Now when I'm calling the child one, so I'm calling the library subfolder method where I'm passing as a public property called content id, and in this I'm passing the particular id. So let me open the library subfolder. Okay, for now forget everything. So for now just assume that you are having just this component that is not having any value in here, right? So what it is doing is, in my parent I am passing this, so this should be important in my child with the API decorator. I am getting this data, right? And now this is the content workspace id. Now I can get this id in my rendered call also, and from there I could make the associated calls also. But I am having another major advantage of the reactive property. I made this as a reactive property in here, right? And I am just calling the wire content documents. So what am I doing is, I am clicking on the library and its associated document should open. So associated documents should be the content documents, right? Now what is a content document in terms of content workspace doc, right? So as I have told you earlier also, let me close this method. This is my get content documents and this is my library id. So we are having an object called content workspace doc. Again, forget everything, just understand this line. Select id content document title from content workspace doc, where content workspace id is the id of your library. That is, if I pass in the list of asset library, let's suppose the id is abc. So in this abc it would list out all the content workspace docs, that is content documents in here. So and it would give me the list. So it's giving me 1, 2 and 3. So that's why it's giving me this list. Now again what I have done in here is a lot of this thing. So I have again created a wrapper. So in order to, like, you would be working in your organizations, so it would be easy. First you check for the return type. So it's the list of document list. And what is the document list? ID and title. So based upon that we are just populating the data. Nothing needs to be seen anywhere else, right? So in order to debug also, just check this condition and what is the output it is returning. So in this it is returning content documents, right, as we did. So it is an array as I explained you. In my HTML also, don't worry of this crap. This is nothing. Just understand this is a for loop. This is iterating over this content documents, and what we have to display is, so if we come down, we see this is the content document dot title, and other things are just relative, that is the box size, flex direction, grid. We have to display grid or whatever we want. So that depends upon the developer to developer, like how they want to style their data, and based upon the requirements we are we generally make these things, right? So that was all in all for your asset library. If you want any other help, then you could check out our previous videos where we have demonstrated you how the working of these things function, as well as how to implement these things, how to add data, what is a content document, what is a content document folder, right? Now task to you guys is, in this I am just currently displaying all the documents, content documents. What if I have to display the associated folder also? Let's suppose I created a folder, I had a folder in my birds one, right? I want to display this also. So how can I display this in here, right, along with this? So that is your task to do. So if you like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and if you feel any difficulties in any of the concepts, do comment us, and we would be happy to help you guys.